Welcome to Cooking with the Pikensteiners. Today we are going to be making a chicken filo parcel with leek and mushrooms. This recipe is not one of mine. It is a diabetic recipe that I got out of a cookbook. So for everybody with diabetes, it is a diabetic friendly recipe and is good for anybody with type 1 or type 2. It's the most requested thing for me to cook by my parents whenever I cook for them. It's really easy. There's only a few ingredients. It does take a little bit of time as you have to cook off a mixture first before you put it in the oven. So allow for a little bit of time when you're preparing it. So for this recipe, we need leek, mushrooms, chicken, some Dijon mustard and sour cream, Filo pastry, and a little bit of cheese. So what we're going to do first is we're going to prepare the mushrooms, leek, and chicken and cook them off before we do anything else. So with our leek, you can top and tail it. I don't actually know what this bit's for. I'm sure there is a use for it, but all I know is that you pay by the kilo and you have to pay for that at the supermarket, but we don't need it. So remove the little bottom, cut the leek down the middle, and just remember when you're using a leek, it's good to run them under the tap inside all the layers because there's often a lot of dirt on the inside. So you just give that a quick rinse out before you chop it up. So now that we've got the leek cut in half and washed out, what we're going to do is just give it a really rough sort of fine chop. It doesn't have to be too careful because obviously we're going to cook it down anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So what you want is just some fine sort of strands like that. Break it all apart. For this we're going to use 2 full leeks. And when the mixture's all done, it should together make about 6 filo rolls. So for our mushrooms, you want about 500 grams, which is one of those larger sort of square packets from the supermarket. Again, you don't have to be too careful. We're just gonna roughly sort of dice them up. It'll all cook down, and you don't want too big of chunks because sometimes if you have a big chunk in there, it kind of breaks through the filo. So I just halve them, run them down the middle a bit, and give them a rough chop. Okay, so lastly we're just going to roughly chop up the chicken as well. We just want sort of a small dicey cubey shape. So just to run it down the middle and give it a rough chop. You want a good 2 size chicken breasts, or about 500 grams, 600 grams for this recipe. Okay, so now we've got our ingredients all chopped up and ready to go. We're going to cook them off together and add the sour cream and mustard to make the mixture for the filo pastry. What I'm going to do first is cook the chicken off by itself and set it aside. You don't have to do that, but it's quite a big mixture, so unless you've got a massive pan or you cook it in a pot, it can overflow sometimes when you add the sauce in. And also, it's easier to roll them in the filo when the mixture's not super hot. So if you put the chicken aside first and let it cool down a bit before you add it all back together, it's not as piping hot when you go to do the next part. Okay, so now we've got the ingredients cooked off. We're going to add in the sour cream and the mustard to make the mixture for the filos. So we're going to put about 300 mils of sour cream in, which is a nice log. And about a good tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Now, I don't actually like Dijon mustard that much. And when I first read this recipe, I thought, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like that. It's not really mustardy. It actually changes the flavour quite a lot, and it's very nice and very mild. So mix all that together. With a lot of my recipes, I'm not overly exact with like measurements. Cooking's all about taste for me. If you like it less mustardy or more mustardy, just put more in. Always taste stuff as you go along. That's the key to cooking. If you're cooking for yourself at home and your family, cook it how you like it to taste. Doesn't matter what a book says or what a recipe says. If it's for you and your family, you cook it how you like it. Okay, as that starts to mix through, you can add the chicken back in. That's what I mean. As you can see, it's quite a big recipe. So if you're trying to toss all that around while it's cooking, it can get a bit messy. Even though Anna thinks I'm a messy cook anyway. Keep it on low heat just till it all kind of mixes together. Once it's started to simmer a little bit, start tasting it and make sure that you're happy with it. And then once that's done, let it cool down and you're ready to roll it in fillets. Okay, so now we've got all of our mixture put together, tasted and happy with the way that it is. Sort of that kind of consistency. When you're doing this for the first time, especially if you've not used Filo before, I would suggest that you let it cool right down, if not refrigerate it before you do it. The Filo pastry will almost melt with hot mixture if you're not quick. So for our Filo, I just got this from the supermarket. You can get it at every supermarket. It is in the chilled section, usually around the cheese or the fresh pizza bases. It is a very thin, crispy pastry. You can't freeze it. It always comes fresh. And because it is quite thin, it's a little bit hard to use the first time you do it. But we'll see how we go. So it comes in a roll. Like so. So the easiest thing to do, I find, is just unroll it until it's in individual sheets. Now there looks like there's a lot, but they're very, very thin. So I'll try to pick up just one and show you how thin they are. So what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 full sheets, but we're going to fold them in half. So essentially we'll get 4 sheets layer around the outside. So I just take 2, fold them in half, move it to the middle like that. And then that's essentially a roll. We're basically going to make a burrito shape. So I get a bit of mixture. Again, this is still pretty hot, but I'll be quick. You can make them as fat or as thin as you like. So 3 scoops, 3 good scoops on there, like that. Sprinkle on a little bit of shredded cheese. And then the easiest thing to do is just grab the outside edges, fold them over, and then roll it over into a little package like that. So what we're going to do is just roll these all up, sit them on a baking tray and botch them in the oven. Okay, so we're all rolled out in our nice phallic shapes. The mixture I did, I think I said 6 at the start. It would easily probably make 8 or 9. You'll get around 10 out of 1 packet of normal Filo if you do the 2 sheets folded over. So what we're going to do now is just finish them off in the oven. Don't forget, everything inside it's cooked and all ready to go, so really you just have to brown the outside of the Filo pastry. About 180 degrees, preheat your oven, and it should only take about 15 minutes then. You're just looking for a nice golden crunchy sort of look on the outside.
Make sure when you use your oven tray that they fit in the oven.
Okay, so we have our finished Filo rolls. They're nice and crispy on the outside. You can have them with a bit of sauce. We usually have some sweet chili or something with them, but they taste pretty good on their own. I'm just going to garnish the plate now, a little bit chefy. You don't have to do this if you just have it at home, but just going to put a nice little plate garnish on there to make it look a bit pretty. All good. Thanks for cooking with us, everybody. Next time we will be doing a cooked tuna and avocado sushi roll. See you then.